birth. What's love got to do with it? Well, apart from the obvious, when it comes to improving birth outcomes, a little love goes a long way. But before we talk about love, we have to talk about preterm birth. Preterm birth, or birth prior to 37 weeks gestation, is a leading cause of infant mortality in our country, and it's characterized by substantial racial and socioeconomic disparities. My research asks two questions. First, can we identify a woman who's at risk for preterm birth? And second, if so, what can we do to reduce that risk? The majority of preterm birth is idiopathic or spontaneous. That means we don't know why it happens. But we do know this: chronic stress is a risk factor for preterm birth. You know, we've evolved to handle quite a bit of stress during pregnancy. So how do we know when it's too much stress? Well, here's where my first research question comes in. Specifically, I'm looking for a biomarker for preterm birth. We performed a nested case control study using banked serum samples. We analyzed blood from 54 women, 27 women who gave birth preterm, and 27 matched controls that gave birth at term. We determined serum concentrations for 6 different steroid hormones and neuroactive steroids at 2 time points in pregnancy. And here's what emerged: cortisol. Yes, the stress hormone. Cortisol levels were different between these two groups. Women who gave birth preterm had significantly higher cortisol levels at their first blood sample, and then little to no change between samples. That is, they started high and plateaued, versus a normal trajectory where cortisol would gradually increase, peaking in the 3rd trimester. The implications of this difference in cortisol, are big. Imagine if with a simple blood test, we could track a woman's cortisol levels through pregnancy and identify if she's at risk for preterm birth. Well, we can. In fact, as part of my research, we developed an assay to measure these analytes in pregnancy. So if we can identify a woman who's at risk for preterm birth, well, then what can we do to reduce that risk? Here's where the love comes back in. A growing body of research and recommendations from top agencies like the WHO tell us that love positively impacts birth, in part by reducing stress. And in this context, love looks like easy access to respectful, mother-centered care. Love looks like birth advocates, such as doulas, throughout pregnancy. Love looks like a mother surrounded by strong social support. And here's the thing, those examples I just gave you, well, they actually lessen the racial and socioeconomic disparities I mentioned earlier. They actually reduce rates of preterm birth. Because in the end, love is like an antidote to chronic stress. So what's love got to do with birth? Well, maybe more than we realized. Thank you.